My name is Niamh McDaid and I'm the sports scientist for the FAI Women's National Team. So my role within the Women's National Team can be quite varied, so it has many kind of responsibilities. The main thing when we're in camp is managing all of the players' loads. So I'd have daily meetings with our technical staff and our medical staff just to ensure that all the players are achieving exactly what they need to in relation to having them at their most optimal for match day. So this involves doing all of my reports for the technical staff after each session, looking at everything in live data as well, so using our StatSports technology to track everything live during the session so that we know the exact moment when a player either needs to be pulled out of a session because they've achieved their daily threshold, or when it's time for a player to push that extra little bit because they need to just get those exact thresholds achieved for that day so that they're at their most optimal then for either the next session or the next match day. So when I began working with StatSports, Kate Keeney was in my team within the department and she just handed in her notice not long after I began. She has a fantastic job now with the US Women's National Team. So the opportunity came up then in December of that year. So I was only there a few months, so I was very lucky to be given the role and responsibility. So a big role within my job is making sure that all of the players' loads are correct. So each player's load is going to be different to someone else. So having that live data again just to rely on in every training is so important, especially then in the post-session, looking at the reports, making the decisions for the next session, especially in a window like this where we have 2 games separated by 4 days. It isn't a lot of time, so just ensuring that we have as many players at their most optimal for the next match day for Slovakia is just really, really important. So we wouldn't be able to do that without the live data or the post-match data, so that's why our StatSports technology is so important to our medical team and technical team. So the GPS device, it's quite a small device. It sits in the StatSports vest that each player wears. It just sits between the 2 shoulder blades of each player. It's in a vertical position and it just slots into a pocket on the vest. Once connected to GPS, which is all the satellites in the sky, it immediately starts tracking. So our GPS device will track over 250 metrics throughout the entire session. It receives almost 5 million data points during a session, so the data accuracy is the best in the business, and that's why we can rely on it so heavily during our sessions and post training, is because of the data accuracy. So yeah, the game against Finland, it was a really special night in Tala, but again the players put in a huge shift on the pitch. There was a few standouts for me. I think number 1 was Denise O'Sullivan. Just in the midfield, she ran all night. She nearly did 11,000 metres in the game, and then over 2,000 metres of that were her explosive distance, so that's things like her accelerations and her decelerations and her high speed running. So again, it's important to have context around those numbers, so 11k looks great, but again, Denise really worked hard for over 2,500 metres of those in her explosive distance. Heather Payne was another standout, over 11k in the game. But yeah, so the girls put in a huge shift, and you could really see that in the live data that we were receiving. Again, I was linking in with Ange, our physiotherapist, and Siobhan, our doctor, throughout the game, just keeping an eye on a few players, just seeing what kind of distance they were covering, and you know, just trying to keep the best players on the pitch for as long as they could. So yeah, it was a great night, and thank God we got the result.